Welcome back, Pioneers Builders, City of Jacksonville, Florida, PB and Jax for short. As always, we are talking to people who are moving the needle in the small business space. In this case, we have a really fun topic of conversation that Don and I are both incredibly passionate about. Mr. Don Smith, I'd like to first and foremost welcome you to the PB and Jax, man. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. I'm excited for the conversation.
Me too. So you work for a portfolio. How would you call it? Portfolio?
It's a venture studio.
Studio. Okay, thank you. Venture studio, Tanager Holdings.
Correct.
So you have a portfolio of companies, and then on the back end of the conversation, we're going to talk about one of them in specific.
Yep.
So let's talk about Tanager. How'd you get into a venture studio? How does the story get there?
Just like the rest of my career, it just seemed to work out. I had been working at a mortgage fintech company here in Jacksonville for a number of years, and I accidentally wound up in Peru one day and was...
You accidentally landed in Peru.
Yeah. My family and I were scheduled for a spring break trip with our kids. My daughter was turning 12. My son was 9. He would be 10 later in that year. And we were planning a trip to Costa Rica. We were all packed. Everybody was excited. My son really wanted to see the sloths. And we got to Fort Lauderdale for the first leg of our trip and found that a volcano had erupted in Costa Rica and shut down the airport. So they told us, we can get you there Monday or Tuesday. And this was Saturday of our spring break trip. So we said, well, that's not going to work. So we called JetBlue in a panic and said, where can we go today? And they gave us a whole bunch of options, and Peru was on the list. And I was like, Peru sounds cool. Let's go to Peru today.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
So you actually went to Peru.
Yes.
Okay. Now we can continue on with the story. I just couldn't let that slide.
It's one of those you don't want to step over. It's like Smith family lore at this point. But on the flight home, we were on our leg from Lima back to Fort Lauderdale, and there was a gentleman sitting in the seat in the window. My daughter was in the middle, and I was in the aisle, and he's talking to her, and he said, well, what were you doing in Peru? And she told him the story. We accidentally went to Peru, and he's like, what? So they engaged in a conversation, and ultimately I asked him, I said, well, what were you doing in Peru? And he told me he was working on a microwave-induced plasma gasification plant for a sugarcane plantation. And I'd never heard those words in that order, but I immediately knew what he meant. Microwave-induced plasma is like if you put metal in a microwave and it sparks and whatnot, it'll create plasma. And gasification is turning organic material into its component parts, carbon and all the hydrocarbons that break down. I'm like, oh my God, that's really cool. So we struck up a conversation, talked for the rest of the flight. I switched seats with my daughter so she didn't have to listen between the two of us. And we stayed in touch. And after a couple of years, he brought a portfolio of opportunities to me. And he said, I've got a guy in Mississippi. He's a lawyer as well. I think you guys would really hit it off. So we started working together, analyzing the opportunities that he brought. There were 7 in the portfolio. 4 of them we decided were either not opportunities that were ready to move forward or were with people that we really didn't trust. So we started working on Covixel, which is our nasal spray that's been out since 2020 to keep you safe from airborne viruses like COVID and flu and RSV. And that's been the one that's been in revenue for the longest period of time. We've got a company called IBIS, which is a sensor technology, which is deep R&D work that's going to need a lot of money, but it's a pretty cool technology if we can get over the valley of death that we're in right now in the research cycle. And then the other was the company that is now going to put out Chudu, which will be coming out in about 90 days. You probably saw the pitch on that. I know you did because you invited me to pitch here.
I did.
The day after, which was great. So that was in our original portfolio. And we've been working on those, raising money for those. And we've brought in a little over $5 million in investments to get those companies to where they need to be. We've added 2 portfolio companies since that time. One was Vision Core, which I think we've talked about. That's the prison AI camera monitoring system. We raised about $500,000, a little over $500,000 to get that through and ready to market. And we're about to install in St. Johns County Jail maybe next week. So they'll be our first paying customer.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes,
I did not know that.
That's pretty cool.
That's news. Okay.
Yeah.
Chudu's not in the portfolio anymore.
No, it is in the portfolio.
Oh, okay.
It's coming out in 90 days. We had to switch manufacturers, and so we're coming out.
Yeah.
That'll be live. But in its original construction in the portfolio, it wasn't a dog treat that helps your dog's poop not stink. It was designed for horses and livestock to remove the odor there so that it would reduce flies, fly populations, and for things like commercial pig farms. If you've ever driven by one, like headed up 95 through North Carolina, it's pretty nasty. So the idea was get this into big ag and help reduce those sorts of problems for larger commercial usage. But there was a lot of regulatory hurdles to get through, and we thought, well, how can we get this to market? And we found through an organization called the National Animal Supplements Council, the NASC, that there was a regulatory pathway for dog health supplements that we could, as long as we, made these claims and we had GMP manufacturer and, followed the rules, that we could go to market. So we were like, great. And we'll have so much fun with Chudu because it's just a fun kind of marketing angle. Who doesn't want to talk about your dog's poop not stinking?
Well, I remember distinctly, and it was during Inner Circle. It was November. It was the first time that I had hosted a pitch event. That was my very first pitch event that I was hosting, at least. I've been to a few. And we had 6 that were presenting. And I remember seeing their decks and listening to their conversations. And they were making great products. As a matter of fact, one of them, his name's Andy Chick. He founded AC Golf. They launched like 3 weeks ago. Like they're in the PGA Superstore having professional golfers swing their clubs. Like, however, it was all so mundane and to the point and about a number. I support those guys every way I can. We got Andy into the Business Journal. We got Bjorn with Runwise into the Business Journal. Chudu is going to be in the Business Journal.
Yep.
But I remember, the night before, went to Silicon Beach. I was like, this is the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. How do I get him to the link tomorrow?
It was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, I twisted
the ass.
Yeah, I twisted. I remember turning the wrist over.
Yeah, you did.
I appreciate you coming out, and on purpose, I put you on last because I was like, it's going to be a little dry. Like I said, it was my first one. I knew there were going to be overruns, and I said, we're going to need something entertaining at the end. And you delivered.
I'm glad it worked out. And I told Andy that I want one of his first run clubs.
Yeah, you should reach out to him.
I'm a terrible golfer. I'm not the worst golfer in the world, but I could really use some tight lines, tight approach shots.
Yeah.
And my wedges have never been good.
So I had Andy in here. Yeah. So he gave us this data, and I understand that this is about Tanager and about Gray Collar, but he had this data where he talked about where you would hit a wedge and it would be the average distance to the hole from 100 yards in was 18 feet. And he said, if I can manufacture a club that reduces it by 4 feet.
4 feet.
Yeah. I will have taken the average putt from 18 feet down to 14 feet. And there's like a 20% difference in miss make on those numbers. He did it. I mean, like if you took, it's the same machine, you swap the club out. His club gets you within 10 feet from 100 yards, whereas the standard wedge will get you to 17 feet.
But Andy's.
So Andy, you always post some wedges, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to pay for mine. I was really clear.
Yeah, I'll pay for mine too.
Randall will get his for free, comped.
But I will pay for it.
He's already paid it forward.
Yeah, so we've gotten like through the pitches and stuff, and then so Chudu was great. I'm glad it's still in the portfolio. You had me nervous.
Totally.
And then so besides Gray Collar, list them out real quick. I just want to make sure we get them out there.
Covixel.
Okay.
Ibis Technologies, the Sensor Tech, Chudu, Vision Core AI, and Gray Collar.
Okay. And with all the other ones that are in flight, whether through R&D or they're in fundraising mode or whatever the case may be, why is Gray Collar the most important right now? Like, why is that the one that you specifically are all in on?
It gives me goosebumps every time I talk about it because the idea behind Gray Collar is that America needs more workers in high-tech manufacturing, in restoring our infrastructure. There's a huge gap, millions of jobs that are needed. Even things as ordinary as mechanics, like there are shortages of mechanics, and it's because we have trained a couple of generations now, really starting with my generation, that we want to make sure that our children study hard and do well in school so that they can go to college and get a job and have a middle class lifestyle. And that promise started breaking down a long time ago. Not for everybody, not all at once, but over the last 10 years in particular, as college has gotten more financialized, by which I mean it's a higher price to go, but there's loans that you can get, Pell Grants, and we went on this huge cultural push to ensure that everybody had a chance to go to college. And that's a good idea in theory, but it doesn't meet reality, not because people aren't suited for college, but because the careers that college pushes you towards, you wind up with a closing funnel instead of an opening. There are fewer and fewer career options if you're looking at just college degrees. And you wind up with a lot of people sitting at desks, working a keyboard and mouse as their primary tool of trade, and they don't like it. I mean, most people don't want to be in a cubicle 8 hours a day, but they're told that that's what you want to do to be a successful person, to have success in the middle class.
Well, they also told you it was safe.
Yes. Yes, that's your safe play.
Yeah.
Get a college degree and then everything's going to work out.
Yeah. The cubicle is safe. It's sacred. They were wrong about that too.
They're wrong about it now, for sure. At the time, it seemed like pretty good advice, and I'm in my fees now. So for me, that advice for my cohort was largely good. Mostly job prospects were better if you had a college degree. That doesn't mean your job satisfaction was higher. It doesn't mean that, got excited to go to work in your kind of middle management career, but your prospects, your economic and like job security prospects were certainly better than if you didn't have a college degree. I just read something in preparation for the article that I just posted that said for the first time, non-college skilled workers have better unemployment statistics than college workers for the first time in history. That was kind of staggering.
You know what's interesting? Like the fact that it happened is staggering, but knowing what I know and knowing what you know, that does not stagger me. Like that doesn't shock me.
Right.
That to me says like all the things that we were talking about that you and I specifically have talked about for months is that white collar jobs are falling due to the technical advancement of artificial intelligence.
Well, and I think it's a combination of that plus some macro trends that are not great. If AI had come pre-pandemic when things were generally on the rise and companies were growing, I think it would have been a less of a blow. But there are job headwinds. There have been job headwinds for a couple of years now that were in addition to, not because of AI. So I think we've got sort of that perfect storm approaching.
That's the analogy I use. Yeah, perfect storm. Two storms, COVID and AI, that happened to collide and created this big, significant issue that we're dealing with today. The reason I said that they were wrong about the AI or the white collar jobs and the cubicles isn't because that they didn't forecast it correctly. It's that if you are 60 years old and you did it the right way and you got the degree and you did the cubicle job, the white collar job, you got into the Fortune 500 and you climbed the ladder, et cetera, et cetera. And then right now you're in the throes of the AI macro issue layoffs that are taking place. Whether people want to believe ageism is real or not, you are absolutely hosed. So I hope that if you're 60, you did a somewhat meaningful job saving for your retirement.
Yep.
But retirement age has gotten older and older and older, and affordability on retirement incomes has changed significantly as well. So people are working much later in life, sometimes because people find something in their niche that they love and they want to do it forever, but also they have no choice. Yep. So maybe it was the safe play, maybe it was good advice at the time, but what we didn't do along the way, correct me if I'm wrong, is tailor that advice over time to say, listen, where we thought this was the safe play in 20 years or in 10 years, maybe it's not as safe. Maybe you should consider getting a secondary skill just in case.
You are hitting the nail on the head. The career advice has not changed, because to change the career advice would be to acknowledge that something fundamental has shifted and we are now wrong. And we don't like to be wrong. There's also a kind of a history bias, like a complacency bias, but it's, well, the story was this. So to change the narrative takes a big effort. And I think we're going to see a big narrative shift here, a paradigm shift, to use the 90s TQM term, right? Where people are going to acknowledge, like, yeah, the story I was told was wrong. And I want to be really clear. We're not opposed to college or college careers or college education. What we're all about is the worker of today to some ideas about their own career discovery that they just would have ignored. And was kind of the thrust of the article that I wrote. Like, we had this path. It was, go to college, get a job, and you're going to get one of the jobs that a college degree will afford you. Well, there is a very wide world of careers that are meaningful and satisfying and lucrative that aren't in that wedge. It's not that we don't want to do those jobs or to consider those jobs. It's just they weren't on our radar screens. Had I known now that non-destructive testing technicians, after 2 years on the job, are like at six figures, and then their career prospects are pretty solid beyond that, up into the upper ones, like, I don't know that I would have made a different decision, but it certainly would have given me some ammunition when talking to, I've got a nephew. He's been casting about trying to figure out what he wants to do. He did what he was supposed to do. He went to college, and now he's in sales, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with a sales career, but he's not in sales because he loves it and that's his passion. He's in sales because he thinks that's a way that he can make money. He's not thinking about it holistically, like, do I like to be inside, outside with other people? Do I like to work not with my hands like a carpenter, but to do stuff in the real world? Do I like to relate to people on a daily basis? And for him, he's in sales. That's what he's doing. But he could easily have gone an occupational or even physical therapist route, with or without college, and found something that was more meaningful to him, is more satisfying. Yeah, maybe you make $5,000, $10,000 less, or maybe you make $5,000 or $10,000 more, but you find a career that you feel good about getting up out of bed and doing. And I've had many jobs. I've had 5 different complete careers I was a lawyer, a financial planner, a mortgage banker, a product manager, and a fintech company. And now I'm a whatever you call me now. I'm a builder of businesses. Those are not just different jobs. Those are totally different careers. I can't even tell you how many certifications I hold, but they're all meaningless now because I wandered through looking for, like my nephew, looking for the thing that would not bring me satisfaction, but would like pay the bills and be respectable, because let's be honest, status is important. And whether we acknowledge it externally or not, like, we don't want our parents to have to apologize when they introduce us. This is Don. He decided not to go to college, but he's doing really cool things. There's this like apologia in that parents don't want to face, and they don't want to be at the cocktail parties. So they're all pushing their kids to go to the best school that they can, partially for their own reasons and partially because they think it's the right thing for the kids. It's a tough nut to crack, but I think AI is going to break this for us.
I think that's already begun. So I wrote an article not too long ago that had some opinions on it. I'd love to get yours. I asked, whose responsibility is it to steer our youth in the right direction? And it was a multiple choice test, which is 1, corporate America. Do they have a responsibility to hire these graduates? Number 2, is it universities who are responsible to prepare the youth better for the real world? Or 3, is it parents and what I said was, these are the people who are typically of the age that are decision makers in corporate America. Do they have an obligation at home to say, listen, like, our hiring trends are that we're not hiring young people for X, Y, and Z jobs, so you should probably take a different path. In your opinion, the best opinion possible, could be all 3, D, all the above is possible, but universities, corporate America, household.
Well, I think The answers are each to slightly different questions. Your corporate America answer was, do they have a responsibility to hire these graduates? And do the universities have a responsibility to train them better for their jobs? And I'll get to that in a second because I have some strong opinions on that. And then the third is, do parents have an obligation to steer their children in the right direction? Those are three different questions. So the answer to your question as posed is certainly D. There is responsibility across the board for all of those questions and for those answers. I'll start with the corporate America piece. Corporate America has a responsibility to its shareholders to maximize shareholder value. I think in the best of circumstances, by which I mean what we should hope for is that the shareholder value is looked at more holistically than what the share price is this quarter. And I think there has been a tendency, not in all corporations, but in many, to chase the quarterly earning. And there has been a trend and a counter trend and a trend and a counter trend of CEOs at different companies in different industries from time to time saying, we're going to push against corporate earnings as the measure of shareholder value, and we're going to look long term. We're going to look at our 5-year, 10-year corporate goals, and are our decisions today maximizing shareholder value for our shareholders 10 years from now? And I think that's the responsible way for a corporation to look at it. But I think the reality is that there comes a time in many corporate cycles where the CEO is under pressure to perform. We love the 10-year vision, but you've been lagging for 3 quarters now. What are you going to do for us now? And the stock price might take a hit, and the CEO is like, okay, what can we do to juice earnings this quarter? That happens. I mean, we've seen that repeatedly. So the responsibility for new hires, I don't lay the new hire decision at the feet of corporate America writ large, partially because of the second answer, and that's the universities. There has been a long, disturbing trend, 15 or 20 years, of what I'll call the degradation of the value of a degree. You have some schools with extremely large percentages of their graduates not reading at senior level, high school level, not being able to do basic algebra or even complex arithmetic. That is wholly at the feet of the universities for pushing candidates through their schooling so that they can bring in a new crop. And again, not an indictment on every university, but I think every university has seen that trend. I think if you were to look at the research, and I haven't done it lately, I was looking at this 4 or 5 years ago, just for my pure geeky edification. And it was a downward sloping trend across 4-year institutions, 2-year institutions, 4-year public and private institutions. And it was disturbing. And there were articles coming out about how employers couldn't count on a degree meaning anything, but they were still going to require a degree. So now you got into credentialism. And when we went from universities and liberal arts degrees, for example, being focused on teaching critical thinking skills and soft skills and how to be in the world, to credentialism, which is you have to take these 120 hours to get your degree, and we're going to play some games so that you can't get your degree in 4 years so that we get some extra fees, and we're going to make sure that the classes that you need are scheduled on top of one another. Like, there were games played at universities across the country, and that it just degraded the value of education. So kids learned very quickly, because kids are smart, well, what do I need to do to get my degree? It's not what do I need to learn to prepare for the workforce world. It's what do I need to learn to get my degree or to get out of high school or whatever it is. So teachers began teaching to the test, and it's just been a downward spiral. We're no longer educating people. We're credentialing them, and the credentials aren't, frankly, worth the employer's time. So you look at corporate America and you say, well, they're not hiring these people. It's because they don't have skills.
No, that part's fair. At lunch, I told you I thought it was on the university's feet. If I pay you $20,000 a year to prepare me for the real world, that means I gave you $80,000 to prepare me for the real world. You better make sure I'm prepared for the real world. And they're not. I'm going to give you something that's very true. It's a little jarring, but I want you to take it and give me your thoughts on it. I talked to a recruiter the other day, worked for a company. They were like, hey, we really need some help finding X, Y, and Z skill set. Great. What do you want? They said, we'll tell you what we don't want. We require a degree, but they can't have graduated on or after 2022. And I said, why? And they said, because there's a better than a not chance that they used AI in some form or fashion to pass their tests, write their essays or whatever. And we're not trying to hire somebody that might not know what it was like to do those things. So at least from 2021 and before, we have a pretty good understanding that the work they did was relevant. So I was like, if they graduated in 2023, you don't want to see them. They were like, we don't want to see them.
Wow.
What are your thoughts?
Fair. I think that I always got jobs through people that I knew or people that would recommend me to an introduction. I can't think of a single job I got sending a resume to Monster and hoping that somebody would call me back. So I've always told my kids, I'm like, you've got to get in front of somebody.
Does that include college? Like when you graduated college, how'd you get your first job?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Great conversation. So let's see, which version of the story do I tell?
Do you want
the full version?
Yeah, you're allowed to curse too.
Well, that's all right. I don't need that. It's already bad enough. So I think we talked at lunch about my going to the Air Force Academy.
Yes.
Okay. And getting kicked out of the Air Force Academy.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So shattered my life because my goal was to be the next Maverick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had already gotten my pilot's license. I was dialed in. That's what I wanted to do. So I wind up going to the University of South Carolina. Graduated, got an English degree because that's what you do, I guess, when you aren't smart enough for calculus. Like I had done thermodynamic engineering at the academy. Got a C, and I barely understood anything. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going the technical route. I'd considered architecture, a lot of math. I'm like, I'm a good debater, arguer. My mom ran a law firm. I think I'll go to law school. So that's what I wound up doing. Well, 3 or 4 months into my first year, my 1L year at law school, somebody I went to high school with told the dean of admissions that I'd been kicked out of the academy. And I didn't disclose it on my application for law school, which I didn't because I was told when I left the academy that those records were sealed. I was an honorable discharge. So yeah, I didn't feel like I needed to disclose that. So I got kicked out of law school.
Oh my goodness.
Of course it's real. I'm a total degenerate, but look how I've put myself together. Anyway, so that I get kicked out of law school. I'm like, now what do? I got an English degree. Well, I'm going to try. They told me it was kind of like a timeout. They didn't say you can't come back. So I'm like, all right, well, I got to do something for a year while I go to law school. So my stepfather had a connection at a company that did like IT stuff. They installed networks and whatnot at companies. And this is in the late 90s, mid 90s. So I got a job as a whatever, kind of as a favor. I got interviewed as a favor. But they were like, oh, you're smart. We can teach you. You can help us install networks and do this stuff. That's where I learned HTML. But I got that job through a connection. I wasn't overtly qualified for the job. So if I'd have sent a resume, right, as an English degree, I would have never gotten a call. I'm smart. I'm adaptable. I have good critical thinking skills, but none of that comes through on a resume. So then I wind up back in law school after that year, and it was fun. I learned how to like build PCs. And I learned how to write HTML. So I wrote my first website called lawclerk.com, and that's how I paid my way through law school, was running a web-based business doing legal research for people as far away as Alaska on this new thing called the World Wide Web. I had a Westlaw account and everything. It was a lot of fun. But I get out of law school, my spring break of my third year of law school, I flew out to Portland with my wife, Sarah, now wife, Sarah. She wanted to go check out University of Oregon. I went and just pounded the streets. I got one law firm to call me back. I said, look, I need a job while I'm studying for the bar. Pay me $25 an hour. You're going to bill me out at 75. I'll work doing legal research for you while I'm studying for the bar. You pay me. It's free money for you. And they were like, well, we don't hire baby lawyers. I'm like, that's fine. I need a clerking job while I'm studying for the bar. If you like my work product, hire me. If you don't, that's fine. I'll move on and I'll find something else, but it's free money for you. And they were like, okay. So they hired me, and I passed the bar. They brought me on, and I was there with them for about 9 months before the dot-com bubble burst and the Portland economy went into the tank. So they had to lay me off because I didn't have any clients of my own, and they don't hire baby lawyers. So I was the first victim of, like, not the first victim of the dot-com bubble, but that was my first exposure to it.
That's the AI bubble of the of the late 90s to early 2000s.
Right. And then the great financial crisis later. So then I wind up working in financial planning, again, pounding the streets, just like calling anybody who will take me. And it's all commission work, right? So low risk on their part. That eventually was not working out for me because it really didn't align with my values much. Love you financial planner types, but a lot of financial planning is just sales. So like it's not the analytical financial planning.
Right.
It's sales.
Acquiring clients.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And I had a law degree. I was like hoping to do trust work and like really complex financial planning, but I didn't have a book. I didn't have a client base. I had just moved to Portland, so I didn't know anybody, so it's kind of hard to build up. And then I wound up in mortgages because that's what was going on then. Did a stint at Countrywide. Holy cow. That was interesting. Was there for like 9 months. And I was like, yeah, no, this is nope.
I understand that. I want to tie this back real quick. I asked about how you got your first job. So the first job was stepdad made an intro.
Yep.
How old are your kids?
Now?
Yeah.
20 and 22.
And so you're pounding the pavement for them to, hey, listen, the key to this now is you have to network your ass off.
That's right.
That's a fact.
That's right.
Any piece of advice that somebody asked me for in this job market, I'm sure that you would give them the same advice, is to network your ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
100%.
And then in any given scenario, without a shadow of a doubt, if you could open a door for your kids, you would.
Of course.
No doubt. Nobody would.
Or anybody I find has something to offer, I'll open doors for anybody. And here's a key piece of advice that I don't think kids hear enough, or even older people, anybody. People want to help you. If they like you, they will want to help you. And even if they don't know you, but you come at them honestly, they will want to help you. Just ask.
Yeah.
And the kids these days, they don't want to ask.
Yeah. So you're kind of navigating me to what my overall question was going to be, which is, I'll give you a really good example. My mother worked at a jail. My father, although I only knew him for 4 years, was a contract painter. These aren't the kind of people that have like networks or people who do favors. Like, this is like the blue collarist of blue collar work. So they probably couldn't have opened doors for me at 20, 21, 24, whatever. Say you're talking to young Randall, and young Randall's like trying to swim against the tide in this market, and you're giving him the best advice. I think the help people genuinely want to help thing is great. But if I looked at you and I said, Don, I don't know how to ask. I don't even know how to reach out to people. What would you say?
It's a tricky question because you can spam LinkedIn or ask your parents. That's kind of the obvious stuff. When I was coming up, the informational interview was a really big way to get those initial arm's length introductions. Like, look, I'm not asking for a job. I just need to understand a little bit more about either your company or your industry. Will you give me 30 minutes? I'll buy you lunch, or whatever it is. And that was always successful for me in terms of meeting new people. But I think today you got to go where people are that you're interested in. And that may mean showing up somewhere unannounced and just being willing to wait for the owner, like be persistent. But I think before that, my advice would be you got to identify your target, because for a lot of us right now, we're going through this existential angst. We don't know, like, my job title is at risk and I got to go do something else. And I'm willing, let's say I'm willing to go do something else, something crazy. Like Peter from Office Space, he goes and works a construction job just to, feel the sun on his face and not be locked in that cubicle anymore. If I'm somebody like that, the first thing I got to do is I got to figure out, well, what are the career opportunities that nobody told me about? And that's really what Gray Collar is going to evolve into, is really a discovery platform for that. But there's plenty of tools out there. But we tend to look at Indeed or Glassdoor or Monster or LinkedIn for the things that are already in our funnel. And that's not going to get us there. So part of it is meeting interesting people that aren't in your normal circle. And that might be, if you have a hobby, a lot of times you'll have, like, I have several hobbies. One of them is fishing and scuba diving. Well, I get to fish and scuba dive with people from all walks of life. I mean, like heavy equipment maintenance guys to truck drivers to, your kind of typical office worker types. So I have a broad circle just from my hobbies. And you talk to people and you're like, hey, so what does your day job look like? And just talk to people. And the more, I think one of the challenges of networking is that it's intention based and purpose based. And part of what I'm coming to believe is, like, the kismet of the universe is you just need to connect with people, all people, as many people as you can, and you will naturally find something pops up. And I know that sounds weird, but it's always worked for me. I mean, I know people of so many stripes because my wife's like, oh, there's Don. He's out making friends again. Like, I just stop people on the street in my neighborhood. They're walking a dog. I'm walking a dog. Hey, what's your name? Where do you live? You down? You 2 blocks down? That's great.
Yeah.
We have Monday nights over at our place every Monday. Come on by. And it has served me, but it's served me in a couple of ways. One is I've got this network of people who are like, yeah, there's this guy in my neighborhood and he always stops and talks to me. And then I've got another circle of people who are like, hey, this guy in the neighborhood, he always stops and talks to me. He's a nice guy. And if I needed anything random, they'd be more likely to help me. But more importantly, that skill of just talking to strangers when it doesn't count or it doesn't matter, helps you flex that muscle when it does count and it does matter.
I agree. I also think you brought up something very important that I plant my flag on, and that is that you can't lead with an ask.
100%.
So when you say, hey, I host Monday nights, you should stop by, you've given them a quote unquote third place, right? There's work, there's home, and then there's a third place. You've given them a third place on Monday nights. You have opened your door to them. That is a value proposition. You didn't ask for anything. You gave them the value. For me, it's taken me a while. The podcast could be a value. Let me help shine light on what you're doing. The pitch event. Hey, you're trying to raise money. Let's get you in front of some investors, whatever the case may be. But you lead with the value. This is what I can do for you, or this is what I'd like to offer you, or this is the door I would like to open for you. Not, hey, my name's Randall. Can you give me a job?
That's huge.
That's a very important part. Everything you said was spot on. The one twist is make sure you just don't come running out of the gate saying, like, I really need this and I really need that.
Can you help me?
I'm incredibly desperate.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
Hey, man, can you help me?
But if you go in with a genuine interest, and I'm trying to remember who I was talking to, Isaac Altman, Panda Technology. He was like, I just sit next to people and I ask them who they are because I genuinely want to know who they are. I leave the business cards in my pocket. I never ask them what they do. I never tell them what I do. It's irrelevant until I get to know them. And he said, I'll walk away with a friend Worst case, I'll walk away with somebody. We see the world two different ways, no big deal. But best case scenario, I'll walk away with somebody that I know is genuine and heartfelt, and maybe we can do business down the line.
I 100% subscribe to that.
Yeah.
That mode. Yeah.
Me too.
I love that.
Okay. We've danced all around it. What is gray collar?
So, gray collar, the movement is our effort to put a name to this 100 million Americans who do work in the real world that is AI resistant. It may have some enhancement available to it, like, the drone, Bob's drones, right? He's got drones that can pressure wash, and that's sort of an automation. He doesn't have to get up on a ladder and pressure wash, but that's just the nature of technology. So you've got these jobs, whether it's my daughter, who's a field biologist for FWC, taking samples of fish, to my buddy Mike, who's a heavy equipment mechanic for a John Deere firm. He's fixing back end loaders and front end loaders, and all of the big things. He's got like really amazing stories, but he works. He's in that dark gray collar world. Like he's washing grease off his hands every day. Mm-hmm. And then there's my daughter. I guess she's washing fish off her hands every day. But like physical therapists, like it's a broad spectrum, but it's never had a name that has been universally recognized by the culture. Like everybody recognizes what blue collar is. There's a whole comedy tour about it. Everybody knows what white collar work is. And everybody aspires to it, whether they should or not. But that group in the middle, we've called them skilled workers, we've called them technical workers, but they haven't really had a unifying name. And once you name it, you can start to identify with it and build policies around it and build solutions for the economy that involve it. So we're trying to engender an understanding of what gray collar work is in America. And honestly, our goal is to make it the 2026 word of the year, because it's going to feel like it came out of nowhere, but it's been around in the economic circles for a long time. It's just not something that, people say around the kitchen table. But, a lot of people, once they think about it, they go, yeah, I'm a gray collar worker. I do gray collar work. And what we want people to understand is that gray collar work is not higher or lower status than cubicle work or, marketing or software development. Like it's a worthy job that adds value to the community, whether it's the community at large or whether it's their company or their company's clients. Like it's work that does something meaningful. And by identifying it and naming it, we can start to solve this AI transition problem, because not only is AI going to displace a lot of workers, but we're trying to reshore our manufacturing, rebuild our power grid, build out infrastructure for the 21st century. That's going to require a lot of work, not just people turning wrenches, but people doing site inspections and environmental assays. There's a whole lot of work that goes into building a factory that isn't just what people think of, welders and wrench turners. There's a whole economy around that where people have to go to the site and figure stuff out, and AI can't do that. Now, AI can help build the plans once you put all the data in, but somebody's got to do all that work. Like I said, a lot of that has been invisible to most people because they haven't had to think about it. Like they got their social media job, their marketing job, their software development job that, you recruit into software development and have for some time, and shared that it's been less good than it's been previously.
Less good does not even fit the scale of what it's been. It's been awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gray collar exists to, instead of having a funnel with these college kids that have little to no opportunities, we're widening the funnel and turn more cylindrical, where you can kind of go at the top and be like, fall out, do whatever you want. Here's a load of different skill sets and trades, whatever the case may be, that you can go explore. And we're bringing recognition to these different jobs that maybe the college system hasn't afforded these college students in the past. Correct?
Absolutely. And that's gray collar, the movement. We've been working, and you've been helping us with that, and I appreciate it. We've been working for several months to build out what a business model looks like to solve this problem. But what's most important and what we could start right now was the movement, start the Substack, start to get the word into common usage so that people have an understanding. And then business side is really just to serve that movement. And we see kind of four layers of client in that. There's people who are students, or they're recent college grads, or they're people leaving the military, or they're people at risk of AI displacement. And they need to do some self-assessment. It's not like, how do I write a better resume? That ain't going to cut it. It's about understanding who you are. And if I had to start all over again, I would not wind up where I am today. I just wouldn't. Like, if I had started with an objective, like, blank slate look at who I am, what I like to do, how I like to be in the world, I just wouldn't be here. Not that where I am is wrong. I love where I am and I love my job right now. But 30 years ago, when I was starting down this road, from college, 35 years ago from the end of high school, if my parents had said, look, college is great if you know what you want to do, but there's a lot of things that you could do. Let's really talk about who you are and who you want to be, and forget about the money. Like, let's find a career path that looks rewarding to you. That conversation did not happen in my household. It was, okay, how do we get you, you got to study hard in high school. You got to do the sports. You got to do all the extracurriculars so that you can get into the best college you can get into. That was the goal. That was the end goal. And that's advice that was fine at the time, but is just completely broken now. And it probably stopped serving people 15 years ago, maybe 20. But that's what it was. And most kids in my circle, middle-class kids, like, that's the expectation. You're going to go to college. And for some families, it's, you're going to go to college because you're going to be the first one in our family to go to college. Other kids, it's, well, you're not going to not go to college. I went to college, so you're obviously not going to not go to, you have to do better than me. So you're going to get a master's, right? Like, there's that kind of pressure. And nobody was looking at it like, does college even make sense for what you want to do? If I was 20 right now and I had the tools available to me that are available now, I look at Sean Scott, founder of Unidesk, 18 years old. He's got his Claude bot instantiation running. He's got the Claude, the arena, the Claude arena. Like, he's killing it because he's found something he's passionate about, and he can build something that would have taken a team of 20 or 30 or 40 developers years to develop with Unidesk. But he's done it basically by himself at 18 years old, right? If he can do that, any one of us can. And that's like the article that I put out today. I didn't really touch on it as hard as I wanted to because it was starting to get long in the tooth. But you can build today. Just build something. The tools are available. It can be a side hustle to start. Like, just find a problem to solve in the world. And it doesn't have to be a big, hairy problem like gray collar. It could be a small niche problem. But if you were like, hey, you know what? I see this problem. What would solving this problem look like for you? Do some discovery, and man, AI can do amazing things.
It really can.
And the networks that are available with, people like you and people like us and what we're doing, there are people out there who want to help people build businesses. The city of Jacksonville wants people to help to build businesses. There are tremendous resources, and it's de-risked a lot of that entrepreneurship if you're willing to make use of the tools and the contacts and the networks that are out there. Go build something.
Yeah. You were talking about the heavy lift of gray collar, and I asked Megan, who I introduced you to,
Yes,
why are y'all committing to this huge lift? It is so important. It is a huge, huge problem that needs to be fixed. But
what'd she tell you?
She just said that she was called to the work, and when she started doing it, she couldn't stop.
I feel that.
You guys are going to end up partnering, partnering, because you're trying to make the gray collar word expand so that people understand what that kind of work is. She's interviewing people of every single job affiliation and trying to bring it to kids to say, is this something that interests you?
Yes.
And a lot of it's going to be gray collar work.
Sure.
So take her interviews, put them on the gray collar.
That conversation.
I'm just a giddy, casual observer.
I could not have been more excited hanging up that call with her. She and I, we were meant to work together, and I appreciate you for making that introduction.
I was about to say, you don't have to say who did it, but you just have to say just have to say how handsome he is. That's all it is.
Dashing young man.
That's gonna be a great partnership. Speaking of, you're not doing this on your own. You have an advisory board, and so who is it? Who's all on it?
Man, so I'll start with my team, John and Michael, my partners. We've got Lucas Wyman. We've got you, Jason Englehart, my best friend in the world. Shout out to Craig Pariseau. He's up in DC. He's got a data science company, and he grabbed onto this, and I think he's our biggest contributor on Substack right now. He's a monster for this because he sees the need as well. He's got an 11-year-old son who is my godson, Jackson, and Craig has been doing everything he can to bring up Jackson as a resilient young man, limited screen time, activities outside, go get dirty, but treat people with respect. Like he's doing it right. And I really respect his parenting, but he's provided tremendous thought leadership as well on the business model. And he keeps me focused. I'll bring him something. He's like, well, is that moving us towards MVP? I'm like, no. And a number of other, so Brendan Lamond from Saladee has been instrumental. Sean and John O'Connor are brilliant thinkers in this sort of data analytics and AI space. And I'm really eager to get to MVP to let them loose on the data problem. Just a tremendous team. And there's other people who are like waiting for something for them to do. They're like, they've got their hands up, like, put me in, coach. Whether it's Sarah Pollard or Alicia Harrington or John Evans. It's a very long list, and I'm at risk of leaving somebody out, but know that you are loved. So yeah, it's a big group. And now Megan, and I've got some people who I've reached out to through Substack who are writing on this topic who have agreed to be contributors as well. And they're like, nowhere here. They're, all over the country. So it's both a business and a movement that have a lot of brains behind it.
Yeah, I brought it up because I just wanted to drive home the point of how many nerves this has touched, that you have this size of an advisory board.
Yeah.
Normally it's like 6 or 7 or something like that.
Right.
Like, for all intents and purposes, for the people that said, like, hey, listen, I can't give you everything I have, but I can give you some time whenever you get this thing off the ground, you're above 20.
For sure.
So it's insane. Sure. There's clearly a movement. There's clearly some excitability. Yes, Craig posts a lot. I've posted 3 times. I saw Brendan post.
Well, we just got you set up.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to see this thing. I'm ready for the first person to say I got the job I got because I went against the grain and I saw what you guys were doing, and it truly changed the way I think.
We want that story. If that's you, please reach out.
Yeah, tell us, please.
And I've got a couple other strong calls to action. We are going to be raising money. That's not the call to action part
yet.
No. This is not a movement that I'm going to be the CEO of when it gets off the ground. This is a national scale movement, and we're going to be recruiting for a national level management team to take this to the level that it deserves to be. As a studio operator, I got too many other responsibilities. I can't make this what it needs to be on my own, by my own force of will, for whatever level of impact that would be. Like, this deserves to be bigger than me and bigger than, our team can make it on our own. Like, we need somebody who can call up CNN and say, I need to get on next week because we've got a really important topic to talk about. So I say that because my call to action is, if you know of anybody who fits that bill, if you've got a contact to somebody who might want to pick up that mantle, please let us know. because recruiting for something like this isn't something you can just put on Indeed and hope.
No.
Like, it's not a job posting I'm going to put on LinkedIn, because it's just not
those that people are going to get networked into.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. So that's one big call to action. Obviously, go to graycollar.com and subscribe to the Substack. It's free, and the thinking, you'll see what we're thinking. What we're looking for are people who have the same worldview. And you mentioned worldview earlier with Isaac Altman. We're not trying to convince the people who aren't ready to be convinced or don't want to think about it, but we are a beacon for anybody who knows that the path they're on isn't going to work out for them, and knows that there is something else that they could wind up doing, but they're not exactly sure how to get there. That's who we want to find. And I know that there are hundreds of thousands of those people right now, millions probably, but hundreds of thousands who are ready to like see what else is out there. And we want you to join the movement, to just join the Substack for now. That's all we're asking. And then we'll grow together from there.
What did we miss?
I don't know. Did I talk about getting kicked out of the Air Force Academy? Law school?
Briefly.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. No, I think that's it. The piece about gray collar and the gray collar work is that there's a risk that people go, oh, these, they just want my kid to become a construction worker, or, they're anti-college. Like, that's just couldn't be further from the truth. It's just about understanding your options, because I didn't.
Tell them to take a look at the image we created on the Gray Collar site. It has nothing to do with it. It's not just construction.
That's right.
There's so much more than that.
That's right. And thank you for that. The cover image provided by
Thomas. It makes sense. I mean, it broke it down. You can be a chef.
That's right.
AI is not taking away the ability to be a chef.
That's right.
You can do that.
That's right.
There's all kinds of things. Yes, graycollar.com. Please look at the Substack. Please read it. There's great stories in there. Quick plug from my end. I've read stories from people in there that have been on the layoff side, have given the layoff, have owned companies, have wanted to own companies. They're entrepreneurs, people that have been to college, haven't been to college. I mean, it literally is talked about from every single possible angle. So give it a read.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. Gratitude time. The podcast is Pioneers and Builders, and then Jacksonville. Well, those are kind of important here. You've pioneered a path for people to get kicked out of the academy and kicked out of law school and still be okay. But you've built several companies, one of which is, Gray Collar is a national movement, but we're shaking the earth here in Jacksonville for it.
Yes.
And then, the fact that you seem to do it the right way. You've always extended your hand to people, me included. You've never said no to me for anything I've ever asked. I appreciate that. But I want to thank you for everything you're doing for Jacksonville and the fact that you employ people in this town. And you're a reason why people are able to put food on the table. I appreciate that, man.
Thank you. And what you're doing here is helping build this ecosystem, and we build this together.
We are. We absolutely are. Thanks for being on, man.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir.